Mm.
What do you think, though, for people in the position that you mentioned, that they're keen to get into the market, but now they're realizing that they would need to compromise to get what they want, but they're just not prepared to make some of those trade-offs? What do you think? Like, how can people set themselves up to get what they want in the future?
So I think maybe they don't willing to make those trade-offs from a lifestyle point of view because they, maybe a couple that haven't had kids yet and they don't really want to move down to Wollongong or the Shire or Central Coast. And so, yeah, you can definitely, I think it's having those conversations, what are we going to do when we get to that stage of life, and start to think that through, what other areas would we consider? Like, do we, want to live in just an apartment long term, and that's fine. Or do we want to potentially go regionally or, and having a real frank conversation? Then how do you make it happen? So potentially you don't have to live in it today. You could buy, a place that you live in it for 6 months, get it growing tax-free, use something called the 6-year rule, which I'm sure you know about, Ben, and your listeners might know about, and then go and rent in the city. You don't have to make that lifestyle shift now, but at least you've got a long-term solution for your housing and you've got an asset growing tax-free for you. Now, you may not move there. Life plans change. You may move overseas, job opportunity or something like that happens, but at least you've started to come up with a solution. Ultimately, that's sort of the thing to be thinking about. If you want to go down the rent vesting, strategy, a lot of people think through. Ultimately, you've got to go, well, where is that going to be a great investment? And if you could potentially team your long-term lifestyle, need, I guess, that's ultimately probably going to be a good investment as well. Buying a house on the Central Coast or north of Wollongong or, a really good apartment in Sydney is probably a great investment as well. And you can grow tax-free. So not a massive fan of that sort of rent vesting strategy, just accumulating properties and not having a solution for your long-term housing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes sense that you need to, it's not to say that you've got to do the thing right now, but you've got to have a plan to do the things that you want and make them happen in a time frame that you're happy with. Otherwise, you're just doing a bunch of stuff. And I think one thing that people probably don't realize, but should, is that if your ultimate goal is to buy a property that's, say, a $3 million property today, if you buy yourself a $1 million investment property or stepping stone property, that you're 1/3 of the way there. Then when you can, you buy another property, another $1 million property, and then you're 2/3 of the way there. And I'm not saying that that's the way that everybody should get there, because if you've got something, that you want to do and it fits in with the moves that you're making, then great, go ahead and do it. But you can sort of hedge your way into the property exposure that you want, and at least then you're doing something, so you're not doing nothing, because ultra low interest rates, what are you going to do with your investments? Frustration, lack of motivation, and you spend more money, then you get ahead slower, and it's like this vicious cycle that holds people back, and ultimately is not helpful to get towards that end outcome that you want.